What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Talking Sports with Manny. So, in this particular episode, we're going to talk about the fantasy playoffs. We're going to talk about strategy. We're going to talk about what you can do to set yourself up to win your fantasy championship. So, just give me a moment to kind of get some things set up here. But got a great episode lined up for you guys. So last week we had a pretty interesting week. Lots of points, lots of disappointments, lots of good things, bad things, but all in all, was a great fantasy week. All right, I got my little picture right here with my guy. Playoffs? You talking playoffs? All right, so now I'm gonna pull up stats from week 10, I believe. Was it 10 or 11? Week 11. So we're gonna look at the RB ones, QB ones. We'll start off with the QB ones, kind of see how everything panned out. So we have Deshaun Watson, who came in at the QB1 with 31 points. The next guy was Justin Herbert with 27. Jared Goff, number three. Taysom Hill, number four. Taysom Hill, man. Taysom Hill was a guy that I started in several leagues. And in ESPN, you have that thing where you can kind of put Taysom Hill in there, and he'll end up getting you, decent points. Not the best points, but decent points. Um, I had him in as my tight end, and this has been a big thing in the fantasy community right now with Taysom Hill in the tight end position. I've heard all kinds of craziness, and it's just interesting to me that a guy who people hate on, they call him a guy like Tim Tebow, or they call him a gadget player, but he ended up having a pretty good game, and haters are gonna hate, but it just is what it is. So I really enjoyed people being mad at Taysom Hill. But if you look at my screen right here, so I said Deshaun Watson number one, Herbert two, Jared Goff three, Taysom Hill four, Kirk Cousins five, Hill six, Aaron Rodgers seven, Carr eight, Mahomes nine, Philip Rivers 10, Andy Dalton 11, and Kyler Murray 12. Man, shout out to Andy Dalton, man. He came in there, he played well. He had 203 yards and three touchdowns. I really don't know how he scored three touchdowns. Kirk Cousins made this thing a back and forth type game. Shout out to Philip Rivers, man. Philip Rivers has been playing ball the last few weeks. If you look at the numbers here, 22, the 8 was bad, 16 was decent, and then 22 again. So he's a guy that I traded, started playing well. So now in free agency, Philip Rivers is available. Philip Rivers is a guy that you might want to go pick up. He plays Green Bay. He plays the Titans this week. Then he plays Houston. Then he plays Vegas, Houston, and Pittsburgh. Besides that Pittsburgh game, all these other matchups are pretty hot matchups. Tennessee is a terrible. They have a terrible defense. Houston is terrible, and Vegas is terrible. So that's four juicy matchups to where you can put him in there. He can get you some mad points. Andy Dalton, he plays the NFC East. Um, he's going to play Washington. The last time he played Washington, he struggled. So we don't know which Andy Dalton we're going to get. We don't know if he's going to get hurt this time around. But either way it goes, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a guy that you can stream, because as the playoffs go into full swing, you're going to get players that are either COVID or hurt or have bad matchups. So, I mean, Andy Dalton, he's not a guy to sleep on. He might pay dividends for you. But let's look at other quarterbacks that you can possibly use this week. Okay, you got Andy Dalton out there, and this is just kind of based off of a league that I'm already in. If Kirk Cousins is available, you want to go ahead and grab him. You want to grab him because he's going to play Carolina, Jacksonville. Those are two nice, juicy matchups. And with Adam Thielen out, um, yeah, they might, run the ball more, but I feel like Minnesota's defense is just bad. So, I mean, Kirk Cousins is a guy that could possibly produce for you again at home versus Carolina, at home versus Jacksonville. Those are two pretty good matchups. And no matter how much Dalvin Cook runs, it just seems like, Kirk Cousins always finds himself in a position to kind of throw the ball to kind of come back in the game. So Kirk Cousins, he's available. Taysom Hill, he's available. I like Taysom Hill's rushing upside. That's big time. If you're like in a deep league, you want to look at Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco continues to put up decent numbers. He had 21 last 2 weeks ago and 15. So he's a guy to look at. Russell Wilson continues to disappoint in recent weeks. Even though he had 20, it was a disappointing 20. 197 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Russell Wilson either has a hot start and a terrible finish or a terrible start and a hot finish. So this just happens to be one of those years where Russell Wilson is not producing like how you would want him to. All right, so let's look at some running backs. Look at some running backs from last week. I love the running back position this year because I have not overspent on any running back this year. I've traded them all for top tier wide receivers, and then I'm just kind of playing the waiver wire thing. So Dalvin Cook, number one, as usual, 25 points. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, number two. Derrick Henry, 3. Ezekiel Elliott, 4. J.K. Dobbins, 5. Melvin Gordon, 6. Had a great game. Had 2 touchdowns. Carlos Hyde, 7. I put him into my lineup the very last second, and it panned out for me. Antonio Gibson, number 8. Aaron Jones, 9. Kenyon Drake, 10. Mike Davis, 11. And Jonathan Taylor, welcome back to the NFL with 15. So he did pretty well. So kind of like in this group, it's kind of hard to find running backs. But I would say go pick up a guy like Frank Gore if he's still available. Pick him up because volume is king. And I think he gets a lot of volume because Perine is out. He's on IR, so he's out at least 3 weeks. So you're looking at Frank Gore. They picked up a couple guys in free agency and elevated some guys. And I don't know if those guys do anything, but it's safe to say that Frank Gore is possibly good for 10 to 15 points in PPR. So might be a guy you want to pick up. Let me see who else might be out there. Kellen Balaj, somebody might have been silly to drop him because the boy's coming back. Austin Eckler. Balaj, if he's out there, get him. If you're in a 10-man league, he should be out there. Get him. Salvon Ahmed, he had a decent game, 12 points, but now you have the return of Gaskin, so you don't know what's going to happen there. You see Le'Veon Bell is being dropped left and right, but yeah, you look at this league, right? This is just the first page of our free agency, kind of like lining up all the points, and you see that out of all these running backs, these guys are RB1s, 2. You see that it's just Frank Gore and Le'Veon Bell out here. Everybody loves running backs. Running backs are hard to grab. So if I go to the next 25 players that are available, you see Perine, he's on IR. Cam Akers, he's been up and down. He had 8 points. Philip Lindsay, Boston Scott. These are names that, you can possibly grab and try your luck. These are, 7 to 8 point type guys. Kerryon Johnson, we all tried to use him last week, and he just let us down. He was terrible. DJ Dallas, he has fizzled out. And look at Todd Gurley, man. He was a complete dud. 3.9 points. And I'm glad that I did not start him. Duke Johnson is another guy that has been a disappointment, a huge disappointment. So when it comes to running backs, it's kind of hard to trust these guys. You just kind of like have to grab whoever. Like you can't put all your thoughts and hope on these running backs. And then another guy you want to go ahead and grab and stash is Jamal Williams. Just have a good feeling about Jamal Williams, Giovanni Bernard. These are my guys. These are the guys that I trust, especially when, they're like the main guys. They'll pay dividends for you. And you see on this list, McKissick ended up RB27 after being RB1, being in the top 12 the last 2 weeks. He's kind of fizzled out. Antonio Gibson is grabbing a hold of that running back position, and he's running with it. We're going to get into overall running backs play in a minute. But Keenan Allen was number 1 for wide receivers. Adam Thielen, man. Adam Thielen, number 2. Robert Woods, 3. Tyreek Hill, 4. Damari Bird, 5. Cooper Kupp, 6. Devontae Adams, 7. Deontay Johnson, 8. DJ Moore, 9. Tyler Lockett, 10. Curtis Samuel's 11. And Aguilar at 12. Aguilar has been solid, man. He's been a guy that, it's hard to trust him because you just never know. Like, He's had games of 14, 14, 21, right? Then the next game he gives you 0. Like what happened to him? Then he comes back with 13. And I guarantee you that you didn't start him. Then you start him the next week, he gets you 1.8. I bet you start him this week after he scored 20, he might get you 1 or 2. So it seems like he's Jackal Hyde. It seems like he's having a good game, bad game. Kind of like Tom Brady. Tom Brady has a good game, bad game, good game, bad game. Jefferson has been amazing, and I expect Jefferson to blow up even more this week. I think Thielen is out. If I'm not mistaken, the reports that I saw, yes, Thielen has been put on the COVID list. So you want to start Justin Jefferson with confidence because he's going to ball out for you. Then you look at guys like Devontae Parker. He's a guy that was on our waiver wire and just got snatched up. He's going to have a big week. They're playing the Jets. Start everybody versus the Jets. And if you look on this list, the only guy that's available via free agency is Michael Pittman Jr. And he's going to be a guy that I go grab. He's had games of 19 points and 15 points. After I'm done doing this podcast, I'm going to go grab Michael Pittman Jr. if he's still available. I should grab him now, but I'll grab him a little later just for the sake of time. So we look at tight ends. Tight ends has just been a position that is just up and down. Kelsey continues to put up wide receiver one numbers. Let's look at the last 3 games, or like the last 6 games out of Kelsey. So he's giving you 24, 21, 6, 24, 25, 26. These numbers are insane. And if you look at the overall yards in the NFL, I believe he's number 3 right now. Yeah, 3 or 4 right now, and I mean he's very close to being a number one guy in yards in the NFL, and that's tremendous value for those of you guys who drafted Travis Kelsey in the second, maybe third round. Um, Darren Waller was number 2. Mark Andrews 3. He had a good game, 20 points. Dallas Goedert had 18. He came in at number 4. Robert Tonyan 5. Hunter Henry 6. Ebron 7. Jordan Akins 8. 9. Richard Rodgers 10. Dalton Schultz 11. Jonnu Smith and 12. Chris Herndon. Chris Herndon, man, welcome back to the NFL. We have not seen you all season. T.J. Hockenson, a guy that a lot of people had hype around. Even with Kenny Galladay being out, I mean, he's getting you a consistent 10 to 13 points, but sometimes it's not enough. You just need more. You need more. And if you can get anywhere from 13 and up from the tight end position, it's crazy. So for those of us who had Taysom Hill on the ESPN league, I mean, we appreciated those 20 plus points that he put up last week. So when you're getting 18 from Dallas Goedert, you most likely won your league. When you're getting 20 from Mark Andrews, you most likely won your league. When you're getting elite points from tight ends, 18 and up, 15 and up, I mean, you just can't beat it. So Tonyan and Dallas Goedert were 2 guys that I've had on my team back and forth, and they continue to let me down. But then you have random guys like Jordan Akins come out and score 13. You go ahead and pick them up because you are in a tough position to where you want more production, and then they don't give you anything. So it's just funny to me. Tight end position is just funny to me. And then you look at the defenses. Um, the top few defense. You had Cleveland, who came out and just destroyed Philly. You had Pittsburgh, who had 17. You had Carolina, who had 17. You had New Orleans. New Orleans has been good the past 3 weeks with 16, 14, and 16. Amazing, amazing. Can't beat it. Washington had 12. I expect them to have another good game versus Dallas. So let's see what happens. And then kickers, they're always a wild card. They're always a position that you never know what they're going to do. But a kicker that I've loved all season is Yanko Quo. He's been magnificent, man. 13 points, 20 points, 13, 12, 13. He's only had like 2 bad games. And that was a 2-pointer, a 8-pointer, and those were what you call bad games. I mean, he's literally one of the top kickers in the entire league. So can't beat it. I'm excited for him. And then Rodrigo Blankenship, man. He's been up and down, but he's been solid. So now I kind of want to switch gears to overall point total as we, start to build our teams, especially for those of you guys who play Dynasty. You want to start to build your teams right now. You want to kind of know who you want to keep, who you want to trade if there's trades available still in your league. So we look at the overall. Jason Sanders has just been a magnificent kicker this year. Him and Younghoe Kwo. Jason Sanders has those moments where Tua or the Dolphins defense they might be blowing you out or trying to blow you out or playing solid, getting past midfield, and then they kick a lot of field goals when they get into the red zone as well. So he's a good kicker to have. Sokop has been solid. Carlson has been solid. Blankenships. I think those are the three guys, three to five guys that have been really, really solid this season. Guys like Justin Tucker have just been slow and steady. Will Lutz, slow and steady. Tyler Bass had two magnificent games or three magnificent games in the last 4 weeks with 23 points, 15 and 18. So who knows? You might want to give him a trial versus the Chargers this week. So we'll see what happens there. The top defenses so far this year overall has been Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has been amazing. They've been consistent and steady. You look at the last 5 games, 18 points, 2 points, 18, 7, 12, and 17. You can't beat it. If you're getting anywhere between 12 to 18 points, you're most likely going to win a lot of games. Another defense that has been surprisingly consistent is the Indianapolis Colts. A lot of people drafted some of the top defenses like San Francisco and even like sleeper defenses like Washington, but they have not been as consistent as Indianapolis. That's why I say you never draft a defense. You just pick one up in free agency and hopefully you get the right one because every year a new defense emerges. And this year it's been Indianapolis, it's been Miami, it's been Tampa Bay. Nobody counted these defenses to be good. It's been New Orleans, another solid one. It's been Kansas City. So you just never know with defenses. So we look at the top few quarterbacks this year. Kyler Murray continues to have a huge lead. He has 291 points, opposed to Russell Wilson's 268 points. Look, Kyler Murray is running circles around Russell Wilson, both in fantasy and in real life. He's putting up mad numbers, and Kyler Murray right now is my pick for MVP. Of course, you got Mahomes, who's just Mahomes. He just does Mahomes type things. Before you know it, before the end of the season, Mahomes might end up with 40 touchdowns to lead everybody. I think right now Russell Wilson has the lead in touchdowns with 30. Then the next guy is Aaron Rodgers, who's playing magnificent as well. So for Aaron Rodgers being the guy who doesn't run the ball a lot, he's getting a lot of points. He's putting up a lot of points. You got to give him credit because he does not throw INTs. Him and Mahomes don't throw INTs, so therefore that's going to boost their numbers up. You got a guy like Josh Allen in at number 4, Deshaun Watson at number 6. Tom Brady has been like in the middle of the pack. With Brady, here's what he's done the last few games. He's had 36 and 19, right? Then he gives you 5, then he gives you 31, and he gives you 14. So it's like 14, then 31, then 5, then 19, then 36. So it's like every other game, Tom Brady gives you a monster game. So he's a guy to keep around based on matchups. I think he has a pretty good game this week versus the Chiefs. So definitely a guy that you want to, play. I won't say playing with confidence, but hey, if you can, you play him. Ben Roethlisberger has been low key, high key, pretty good. Last 3 games, 25, 29, and 17. He's tearing it up, man. Look at the touchdown numbers: 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns. He's finding his wide receivers, splitting up over 300 yards passing. And then his interceptions are down this year, man. Only 5 interceptions. Besides that game versus Tennessee where he threw 3 picks, other than that, he's been rock solid, man, putting up numbers. Justin Herbert, man, ever since he became the starter, he's been putting up more points than anybody. You look at the last few games, 24 points, 27, 38, 23, 23, 21, 27. You can't beat it, and he's just throwing touchdowns. Every game, he's thrown either 3, 4, 2 touchdowns twice, but he's thrown multiple touchdowns in 7 games in a row. Got to give him credit for that. 7 games in a row of multiple touchdown games. He's a beast. Right now, he has 22 touchdowns and 6 INTs. That's just as good as it gets, man. He's probably going to end up with 35 passing touchdowns. Some of the sleeper quarterbacks to look at is guys like Teddy Bridgewater. But like I said earlier, even looking at free agency, there's no quarterbacks available, and this is a 1 quarterback league. So it's kind of good to have 2 quarterbacks unless you have a guy like Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, and 1 quarterback should be enough unless COVID happens or unless an injury happens. But for the most part, you should be solid with the quarterbacks that you have. We want to look at wide receivers. You look at guys like Devontae Adams, who missed quite a few games and then still comes in and then he's killing it right now. I think week 2 he got hurt and then week 3 and 4 he didn't play. But when you look at the numbers that he's putting up, 44 points, 33 points, 30 points, 18 points, 22 points. I mean, he is number one after missing 2.5 games. He's just that good, man. He has 10 touchdowns right now. We're gonna get into the touchdown numbers for wide receivers, but it's just crazy. You look at this right here. You got 8, 9. You got Terry McLaurin as a number 9 wide receiver this year so far, and he's a guy that I got in the 4th round in every single league. Not just because I'm a Washington football team fan. I mean, I just knew that Terry McLaurin was going to be that dude. So he's putting up numbers. You have Calvin Ridley, who's been consistent when he's healthy. You got Robert Woods, man. This guy right here is a yak monster, and this season he's increased his touchdown potential. So I know coming into the season, I didn't see him as a guy who scores touchdowns, and he already has 5 already, which beats what he did last season with 3, I believe. And then you have guys like Cooper Kupp who can go off. Claypool. There's just so many wide receivers this year, and if you look at the top 25 wide receivers right now, they're all rostered. There is no wide receiver that is not rostered. I mean, receivers have just been so solid this season. And you look at Cooper Kupp last 3 games, 22, 10, and 25. So he's a guy that's trending up. He plays San Francisco, and in the playoffs, he plays New England, plays the Jets and Seattle. So in a particular league, I have Jared Goff for that playoff matchup. I'm probably going to have a first round bye in this particular league. So I'm looking at the Jets and Seattle, and I'm starting Jared Goff, and I'm starting Cooper Kupp with confidence, especially if I make it to that championship game. I think it's going to be a shootout between Russell Wilson and Jared Goff. So as you are preparing for the playoffs, you want to look at the schedule, weeks 14, 15, and 16. Don't more so worry about the rest of the last 2 games unless you need to make the playoffs. Then you can do something like that. When you go look at the next 25 wide receivers on the list, you have AJ Brown down here because of injury. You have T. Higgins. Somebody just dropped him, which is crazy. Got Slayton out here available, Keelan Cole. So you gotta look at matchups these next 2 weeks, but then at the same time, you have to look at those playoff matchups. And like I said, Seattle guys, Seattle and the Jets, whoever those 2 teams are playing, you want to go ahead and grab your Rams players right now for those 2 matchups in the playoffs. That's going to be key on what helps you win the whole thing. You look at running backs, which has been a weird season. You have Antonio Gibson, who is a running back 1 so far. So in this league right here, I started off with no running backs, and I ended up with James Robinson, Antonio Gibson, and Jonathan Taylor after losing Saquon Barkley. And guys like McKinnon is out here, but can you really trust McKinnon? We don't know what's going on in that running game out in San Francisco. But like I said, you want to look at matchups. You want to look at who plays well versus who. Like for example, I click on Kareem Hunt right now. Kareem Hunt plays the Jets and the Giants. So the Giants week 15, and then the Jets in week 16. You want to have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt locked and loaded for the playoffs. Okay, let's look at who Clyde Edwards-Helaire plays last 3 weeks. Miami, New Orleans, ATL. Ooh, that's kind of tough. I trust him versus ATL, but of course you can't bench Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's a beast. So you gotta kind of look around and kind of see what's going to work for you, what's not going to work for you, and then start to strategize right now, because there are guys that you can pick up for free and you can use them, and these guys can possibly help you win your fantasy championship. So let's look at tight ends. Let's see who can actually do something based off of schedule the last 3 games. Click on Darren Waller. He plays the Indianapolis Colts, Chargers, Miami. That's not bad. Even though Miami has a good pass defense, they more so are great at covering wide receivers opposed to tight ends. So it's going to be interesting playoffs. Good luck to everybody. If you guys have any questions, be sure to reach out to me via Twitter at TS with Manny. Appreciate you guys tuning in to this stream / podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and good luck in the fantasy playoffs. I'm out.